Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to have you here.
It's always cool, right, to get a couple people together and bring that message of hope and share their experience and where you've came from and where you are now, and because we're all the same, we could all relate to all the same characteristics of the same disease.
Yeah.
You know, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah. It's so amazing to have you as the first guest on this thing.
I feel honored.
Yeah,
I feel honored.
So 2 days ago, is your 2-year anniversary being out of prison?
It's been 2 years, about 2 days. 2 years I've been out, and it feels like yesterday.
Man, me too.
And it's crazy how, I mean, I did an 8-year prison sentence,
mm-hmm.
and it's crazy how you can forget about it. You know, and that's what this disease is, the built-in forgetter, right?
Yes.
I could forget how good it feels to be sober, how good it feels to pick my daughter up from school, tuck her into bed at night.
Mm-hmm.
I could forget the dope sickness. I could forget the store bills on the yard and the store days with no money. That's not fun.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
The hot ones, the ass kickings, making my mom. I could forget all those things, right? And think that I can go back to 1997, sophomore year in high school. I had fun. It was fun. Mm-hmm. It was fun then.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to get back to there for a very long time. But this thing, my disease, tells me that I can. It's a trip.
It is a trip. When we were texting, like, we moved the time. I moved the time. We're busy as hell, and so I was running late for this, and I'm kind of like grabbing my plate, and I'm just hustling around, like getting all busy, and my wife's like, you should be grateful that you have someone prepare your food. And because because of you, I'm getting in shape. I eat macros, non-negotiables. I got so I go to the gym 5 days a week now, and so again, like my wife, I got out of gratitude because I'm getting ready to come film the podcast with a great friend.
Yeah. I'm a sponsor, okay? I sponsor people. Let me do what I want.
Oh my God!
I mean, I tell my wife that, or even my mom. It's like, don't you know? I think I'm a sponsor, okay? Calm down. I got a lot of things going on right now. We need to have good women in our lives.
Oh man.
We have to, right? And it's the fellowship aspect of it. It's the relationships. Everything is a series of relationships in our lives. Business, personal, friends. It's all about relationships.
Yeah.
Man. In the big book, recovery, people like ourselves taught me how to have a meaningful relationship and what that looks like. Yeah. Right? Because I'm so selfish. How could I have a relationship? It doesn't work. Yeah. My wife has to remind me about a lot of things.
Yeah, me too.
What about me? What about me?
Yeah.
It's classic to the wives. I deal with that all the time in the big book. It talks about that. We put recovery first. Everything second becomes first class. But the family's got to be up there too. Right?
Yes.
Because without our wives, we wouldn't have the lives we have today. My wife wrote out 8-year prison sentence with me. Tough. 8 years. Yeah. That's a long. My daughter was 1 when I went in. She was 9 when I got out. Right. And now here I am, and I get out, and I start doing all these things, and I want to do a podcast, and I want to work in recovery, and I want to start my own business, and I want to sponsor the world, and I want to go to every meeting, and I want to speak at every single meeting. And she's sitting there going, "Hey, I'm here too. Yeah. What about me? I got to put my recovery first." Yeah. But I always have to make sure that I have that time. And it's the balance we always talk about.
Yes.
Intake versus output. Yes. How much do I give and how much do I take in? It's hard though.
Man, it is. It's I was setting up the cameras. I was checking the the old video cards in them, make sure there was room and all that. And I deleted all of the old footage I had on these except that camera in the middle. And what I have on there is when I filmed you and your wife on the Two Wives thing.
At Crossroads Midtown.
Yeah, and I still have it on my computer, but I was like, I can't delete that because that was so powerful, and I loved when you guys did that, and it really gave an insight to, like in your pitch, in that when you guys did that, you said you got out of prison. And you were how long sober when you got out of prison?
I was
5 years.
3 years.
3 years sober.
3 years sober, yeah.
So, and you're like, you get out of prison and you're like, hey, everything's gonna be cool. I sponsor guys.
Yeah, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, and like when you said that, I was in the crowd and it caught me like how insane that's got to sound to somebody who's not in recovery and has no clues. And I liked in that pitch too. You said she's like, I write out an 8-year prison sentence with you, and you need to go read a book with a guy to stay sober.
She couldn't understand it.
Like, and I was like, oh my God.
She couldn't understand how her love wasn't enough, right?
Yeah.
And they'll never understand it, right? Because they don't have that same reaction. It talks about that in the big book, where their reaction is very different than ours. Mm-hmm. So why they say, why can't you stop for her? You just overdosed. Why can't you stop? You could have stopped. The kids, the prison, like the doctor said you're going to die. Why can't you stop? And it says the back of it is a world of ignorance and misunderstandings. We see these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different than ours. And we're talking about the allergic reaction. She'll never know what it's like to wake up and, or if you're sleeping, right? And be physically dependent and be preoccupied and consumed and obsessed, you know, and they'll never understand it.
Yeah.
Right? And even though, you know, we do recovery for ourselves, we do it because we don't want to feel the way we feel anymore. But the motivating factors are our wives and the moms who've, you know, countless trips to detoxes and bringing them cigarettes, Crossroads, because, you know, I need them cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I need them quarters and visitation, right? I'm going to need that, right? Yeah. And then for me, and I say that, right, well, I'm a sponsor, right? And because, you know, the thing is we keep this by giving it away, right? And you know that. And so they don't understand that, though, right? Right. And so it's always just trying to put together a complete life that includes our wives, you know, and our families. That to the wives is important, and you know, the program, it goes to 164, right? You got to go all the way through there, because if you're missing what it's like with the family afterwards, what it's like going to be like with your wife now, if you're lucky to have one, and then also the employers, you got to work, right? Doing some damage there, and then ultimately the vision going forward. It says trudge the road of happy. It doesn't say just skip your happy ass all the way down. It's going to be great. You'll be fine. It says trudge. It's a grind, you know. It's pretty crazy, though.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, I mean, we're referencing the book Alcoholics Anonymous, but the thing that's so powerful about you and your wife doing the presentation of Two Wives is so... I know a grip load of people in recovery. You know a grip load of people. I know like 3 couples that got sober kind of together around within a year of each other. I don't know any couple that both went to rehab and got sober together. It's not to say they're not out there, but I don't know anybody. But I do know, I have 3 friends that got sober. The couple got sober within a year of each other, or around that time. One got sober for a while, and then the other one. But so, like, to wives, I never go over to wives with a sponsee because he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have nothing, and it's it was just such a powerful experience as a dude in the audience to watch that and really see, because you know, I do the one thing with you that my very first sponsor told me never to do. He's like, don't ever put anybody in this program on a pedestal, especially me. He was talking about himself. You know, but you know what I mean? But like, I mean, I've got you on a pedestal because I got mad respect for you because I met you in prison. You're out 2 years, so I met you like 3 years ago or 4? 3?
It's been 4 years. I met you 2 years before I was getting out.
Oh,
about
wow,
2 years in the gate.
Time is flying.
Yeah. And I met you whenever I was hosting a recovery event on the yard.
Right.
I had, you know, Joey Landon come in. Shout out to him. I had him come as a speaker, and then you came with him. Right, for it was National Recovery Month. And we were hosting an event. I did a little comedy show.
It's hilarious.
And that's where we met. I worked for Joey for the last, you know, basically 2 years, doing something different today, which is okay. And as soon as I got out of prison, I got in touch with you, and you got me my first service commitment at Salvation Army, and I went there on Monday nights, and then you got me a service commitment at Crossroads, and then you had me over for dinner, introduced me to Justin, who now I got a project. It's just crazy how it all works when we work together as a team for one common goal, to help as many people as we can and be there and be supportive for each other. People want to help people who want to help themselves. Bottom line of it.
Yes, it's true. And people want to be around people who are successful.
Sure.
You know, and the thing about it, especially, you know, the big book says watching others recover is the bright spot of our lives.
Yeah.
And that's such a true promise, because meeting you 4 years ago, I went in there with Joey on recovery in the prison yard, and it was so amazing because like you had everybody laughing and you're calling everybody out, and we got famous,
roasting the whole yard.
It was great, it was we got all these famous people in here, and I started looking around, and you're like, oh, we got shout out Suge Knight, and making joke of all these people that I didn't even know, but it was still hilarious. And I was like, man, this guy seems super cool, and I don't even know, did we chat afterwards?
I think we talked for just a few minutes afterwards.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But then I saw you when you got out, and or you called me, and then you started coming to Salvation Army, service commitment, and then we get you set up with the Saturday night big book study that you do.
Crossroads Midtown.
And the Sunday meeting that you
Sunday
do.
Meeting, Crossroads Arcadia.
And filmed it, and it's, I mean, you are I say, oh, I got you on a pedestal, but you are a bright spot in my life, because to see where you were at 4 years ago on a prison yard, and see you be out of prison 2 years and 2 days, and the incredible career that you've got going on, the family life that you got going on, coaching your daughter's soccer. I mean,
with 14 felony convictions.
Yeah, let's not forget that. And it's just, that's why I love recovery, because I don't know anywhere in the world where you can come out of prison and a whole community says, oh, you just got out of prison? Yeah, for being a drug addict? Welcome.
Yeah.
We need you here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
you're in.
And you just start running with successful people, and you're successful. Like, literally in 2 years, because the first job you took, I remember when you told me you got your first job was like BHT, or like no money, just entry level.
Yeah, so I walked into Sanctuary Recovery Centers a week after being out of prison, doing 7 years on 8.
Were you on probation still?
I'm still on probation.
Are you?
I'm still on probation. And what's crazy about that, I got another year.
Oh,
right?
wow, that's amazing.
And 2 weeks ago, I had my probation officer and all of the other probation officers who work in her department come meet up with me. I gave him a tour of Sanctuary, right? Sat down, gave him a presentation, and then took him to a couple different properties to show him. So now they're referring people to us. She had probably referred 10 or so different people to me that were on her caseload, just like I was. My PO.
Wow.
My own PO.
Yeah. Right? She probably got a picture of you on her desk and shit, like, look at this guy.
Yeah, he's easy. Well, we always think our PO's out to get us, right?
Right.
It's all because I gotta blame other people, right?
Yes.
As I look at that in my 4-step resentments, Mark Herman, I'll never forget his name. I blamed some shit on him for years. It's his fault. He did this. He put me back to prison. I'm mad about this. My PO.
He was a PO?
Yeah, his name was Mark Herman, right?
Yeah.
And then I look at the 4th column in the 4-step and says, well, what's your part, Jason? Oh, well, I lied to him every time I talked to him. I moved several different times without telling him. I've had 6, 7 dirty UAs in a row.
Went out of state.
Went out of state. Yeah. I asked him if I could go to Miami for spring break. For a traveler's pass, right?
Yeah.
I was playing soccer in college, and I'm like, I'm going to do things the right way. I'm going to ask him.
Yeah.
I say, hey, man, I want to go to spring break in Miami. He's like, nah, not going to happen. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, he'll never remember, right?
Yeah.
And because it was like Christmas time, so, fast forward 3 months, I'm in Miami, and I get a call. Hey, we need you to report. If you don't report by the end of tomorrow, you're going to get violated.
Oh, man, go back to prison.
So, So I got violated, and then from there I went on the run for like another 4 years until I finally got caught.
Oh, wow.
But our POs aren't out to get us, man. And probation is easy, right? All of a sudden now we're sober, where we care about what we do because we get these spiritual principles, right? We have these character assets today. I'm dependable. I have integrity. I'm reliable. You can trust me. I show up. I work my butt off. I always do my best. I ask for help when I need it. I'm willing to help others. I'm willing to go above and beyond. Now all of a sudden I'm employable, right?
Yeah.
And we're able to pay our fees, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to lie to you because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. So
it's
not
real
getting high,
easy.
not trying to sneak it.
But, and that's just another miracle of the program. I get to have my probation officer come take a tour, and now she refers me people, right, that need help getting into recovery. Because I walked into Joey's spot, right, and I knew I had a passion for recovery, and I knew I wanted to help people, and where I got that passion was sponsoring 100 different men easily on the prison yard in Florence complex. I mean, I had 10 sponsees for the 3 years when I found recovery. It was 3 years before I got out. I had 10 sponsees at any point in time. I would jump from picnic table to picnic table to picnic. I'd have one waiting for me. Hour here, hour there. 115 degree heat in the summer, pouring down sweat. How bad do you want to live? Right? I'm telling these guys, I'm out there, right? And I ended up teaching a drug class on the prison yard, and I worked with probably like, maybe 6,000 plus inmates, right? I taught a 6-month drug treatment. That gave me the passion for recovery with the sponsorship. Now I know how to teach a group. Now I have some curriculum under my belt. This is what I want to do. I walked in there. I got a 2-year degree from playing soccer in college. Never finished my 4-year degree. I've never worked in recovery. I don't have a fingerprint clearance card. I don't have a peer support. I don't have a single certification. I walked in there and they said, we're going to start you out at $16.50. And I said, nah, I ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, I remember you. Right? I think you said something.
I need 30.
Yeah.
I said, nah, I need 30. No, I can't do it.
Like a week out of prison?
Yeah, I'm out of prison for a week, right? I go home, I tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, babe, they're tripping. I owe them $16.50. She's like, oh, you're a sponsor. You've never done this before. Why don't you humble yourself a little bit, right? And go in there and learn. Because you don't know what you're doing other than, in the big book, some recovery. You taught a drug class for a period of time, but you've never worked in a behavioral health facility. I said, all right, you know what, you're right. I started out as a swing BHT and weekends and did some overnights.
Swing shift,
And then I got it to swing shift, and I got into a day shift, and then I became the lead, and then I became the program house manager of the program, and then I became the facilities manager, and then next thing you know, fast forward, the last 2 years, I'm overseeing, 30 plus BHTs. I'm overseeing the opening of the facilities. I got a podcast for them. I'm doing some marketing stuff. I'm hiring. I'm bringing in, and it was awesome, right? I had the ability to bring in, 30 plus friends of mine, sponsees, the guys that I said. And when we were sitting in a picnic table in a prison yard out in the middle of Florence Complex, we're sitting there in the heat, sweating our ass off. And I said, when we get out, man, we're going to do this thing together. We're going to help people, right? Everything else is going to fall into place. We're going to do this. And they got out. I emailed them for a year, right? I got you. They got out. I got them a job. I got them in a place, got them connected with recovery. And I had the ability to do that for so many people. And I look around to my staff, and I see 15 of my sponsees that I sponsored 3 years back.
In prison. Yeah, working out here for a treatment center.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, man. It's insane. I don't know anywhere that you can go in the world when you've burned your life to the ground and in 2 years accomplish what you've accomplished.
I tell my mom all the time, I'm like, Mom, you see, you thought I was just building a resume, Mom. I needed that lived experience to be uniquely qualified to help these guys. All right, she's like, too soon. Shit still ain't funny.
Yeah.
But it's the truth, man, and our past becomes our greatest asset, right?
Yes.
We don't regret the past and we wish to shut the door on it. It's one of the promises.
Big one.
Because that's how we forgive ourselves. We can look about the forgiveness of all the other people in our lives. We can look at that stuff, but the forgiveness of self is the hardest thing to do. How do I forgive self, right? And the way that I do that is by using my past to help others, because what I'm doing now is shifting the attachment to the past. I don't have a negative attachment. It's all the guys I sponsored, right? It's a selfish, selfless program. Because when I sit down with a guy and I do a 4-step or a 5th step, I get to say, look, dude, I stole from everyone that I've ever known, right? You're not alone. I understand what it's like to choose drugs over your kids. I understand what it's like to not be able to see your daughter for 2 years. I understand what it's like to continuously break your mom's heart. I understand how you feel. I felt the same way. I've been there. You're not alone. And in that moment, I feel a little bit of gratitude for all those. Does it make it right? No. Hell no, it doesn't make it right. But what it's doing, it's allowing me the forgiveness of self process.
Yes.
Right? And if you've harmed every single person you've ever came in contact with, they say we hurt the ones we love the most, and yeah, that's true, because my mom and my wife answered the phone and the door more than anyone else did. But my hurt doesn't discriminate.
At all.
Mom just wrote
it.
It didn't matter. So a lot of step work, right?
A
lot of service work. And now today, with 5 years of recovery now and some change, right, I look over my past and I'm grateful for it.
Man, me too.
Because it's given me this life. Right? It's crazy, man.
It is crazy, and that's why I love recovery, because we get to retell our story and And like you know, quote in the big book, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on them. And that's a huge promise with our pasts. But, you know, like, I didn't go to my stepmom's funeral. Like, that was my moment. Like, I was homeless and in this homeless drug rehab trying not to go to prison because I robbed my buddy's house. But when I realized that I wasn't going to my stepmother's funeral, I hit a level of piece of shit that I'd never hit before. Yeah. You know, which was my step one experience. I relapsed for 5 years before I got sober. But it was like, I was in this drug rehab and I was like, oh, my life's so unmanageable. It's not a good idea to go to my stepmother's funeral. Like, my dad probably would have flown me, but my whole family hated me. Brother already said he's gonna kick my ass when he saw me, and when I realized, like, oh, I'm not gonna go to her funeral, I just hit a bottom I'd never hit before, and I was like, oh, my life's unmanageable. Click, and I think for you it was in the hole in Flagstaff.
Yeah, I mean. It's ultimately, you know, and so I
was
look
that
over,
your bottom?
Yeah, it was a prison cell in Kingman, Arizona.
Oh yeah.
And if we look at all the different times where we had hit bottom, because we've hit it so many different times,
right? Just bouncing off the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, just knocking our head on over and over and over again. And I might, you know, get into detox and I go to Crossroads or I go to a treatment center or I you know, sleep it off at mom and dad's for a few weeks and I go to a couple meetings. I do steps 1, 2, and 3. Things start to get a little bit better and I'm like, I got this. I got recovery.
Maybe get a job.
Maybe get a job. You know, the kids come back, the wife comes back, all those things. But what I don't have is recovery, and what I do have is relief. But I think I have recovery, but I only got relief. And so I always talk about when I do intakes for work, or when I see somebody and I pick them up off the streets, or they call me for help and I go pick them up in the middle of the night. I say, this is the moment that you never want to forget, and you want to make sure that you capitalize on this gift of pain and desperation. Because if we don't capitalize on it, we'll keep going back to it.
Yes.
Right? And so for me, you know, when we talk about missing, you know, the funeral and stuff like that, you know, I was 3 years into a prison sentence. I ended up having a worse drug habit in prison than I ever had on the streets. Heroin, whatever. Yeah. You know, I mean, drug of choice, whatever you got right now.
Yeah.
I prefer opiates, but I'm cool with what you got, like, right now.
Yeah.
You know, that was my thing. And, you know, I was hustling on the yard and I was doing this and I ended up having such a bad habit, dude, that things just got bad for me. Your money's good till it's not good. Mom's only going to believe the broken TV story 2-3 times. Yeah. Right? I remember there was a point in time where my wife went out to New York to see all my family. I got a big Italian family and they get out there and all my aunts, right? My godmother. I had a godmother who wrote me every single week for 7 years, never missed a week. Yeah. My godmother, shout out Aunt Trish. Yeah. And I got all my aunts there, and they're talking over dinner, and my wife's out in New York, and they say, yeah, I got a call from Jason. I sent him some money. He broke a TV. And I go, he broke a TV? He called me broke a TV. No way, he broke a TV. He called me broke a TV. And I call my wife, you know, hey, babe. She's like, what the? How many TVs have you broke? I'm like, a lot. Right? Yeah. I'm incapable of being honest, right? Yeah. I hadn't found recovery yet, you know, and you know, that's just what it was. And so, you know, my money was good till it wasn't good. I owed a bunch of money. I was running around the yard. The cops wanted me off that yard, and they said, this is what happened. I had a catheter, right? I had this little tube that I could there's a funny story about this, right? So it's a little tube, it's catheter, right? And so you would slide it in, right? And you take a sriracha bottle, fits right in the cone, and you pump it full of water, and it go into your bladder. You pull it out, and you do that 3 times to flush out your bladder. So when they called you for a UA, you would piss water, right?
On the yard?
On the yard. To pass a UA, right? Because I'm dirty, I'm not past it. There's not a chance in hell I'm going to light that whole damn cup up, right?
Yeah.
And so the first time I did it, I washed out the sriracha bottle, but I forgot to wash out the cap of the sriracha bottle.
Oh my God!
And then they called me up there, and it turned out not to be a UA. Right? Yeah. I was pissing fire blood, dude, for like fucking 10 days, dude. Right? And
I've never heard that. That's crazy.
It was bad, dude. And and so I had passed a bunch of UAs, and they couldn't figure it out. I'm 110 pounds soaking wet. Yeah. I got track marks on my arm. I'm tore up, right? And they're like, all right, dude, let's just get this dude out of here. They send me to Kingman, Arizona, man. I get out to Kingman, Arizona, and, you know, I'm dope sick.
That's a private prison?
Yeah, it's a private prison ran by Geo, and I take this bus ride out there. It takes all day. I'm feeling like shit. And the only thing I can think about is someone told me that, you know, that grams of heroin are only $30 cheap. Cheaper than anywhere in the prison system. I can't wait to get there.
Man.
I get off the bus, I get there, and they're like, hey, you're on blocks for 30 days. And blocks means no drug deals, no getting high, no money, you're not moving money, you're not borrowing money, you're not gambling, you ain't doing nothing for your first 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
Wheels are off the car, player, you're stuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I'm dope sick right now. I gotta shit a softball, A. B, where's the fuck chopper at? Where's the phone at? You know, I heard there were $30 grams here, and he's like, listen, dude, this ain't that type of yard. They're gonna fucking beat your ass.
Oh, yeah.
And they did, dude. And they did. And, you know, I laugh about it when I tell my story. I kind of chuckle about it today, but I got a scar right here above my eye that happened within an hour of that that conversation we just talked about.
Yeah.
Within an hour, I was in the bathroom scrapping this dude, this young kid. I can barely, you know, I don't want to fight with anyone, dude.
Yeah.
I get to prison, all of a sudden I'm a tough guy. I'm not a tough guy. I don't like to fight. You know, I didn't win many fights.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Good thing in prison, it doesn't matter as long as you fight.
Yeah.
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so my two front teeth are still sensitive, you know, 5 years later to hot and cold from an ass whooping where I had to pull them back forward. I thought I was going to lose them.
Damn.
I mean, I was penciling ass whoopings right into my day. Well, I'm going to wake up, catch that hot one, get my ass beat, then I'm going to try to get high, and then I'm going to dodge the yard and walk the track over and over until the yard closes so I don't see anybody else that wants to beat my ass, right?
Wow.
And so this 30-day period there where I was just getting beat up, I became the guy that I used to talk crap about. I became the dude who, when I was solid, and this dude's a piece of POS, and this dude's this, and this dude's that. I became that dude.
Like strung out on dope.
Strung out on dope, couldn't pay his bills, borrowing from anyone, picking up cigarette butts off the ground, right? You know, would get money. I wasn't getting much money at all this time. My family had cut me off. My wife was sick of it, right? And it just got real bad for me, man. And I finally, after getting beat up so many times, I remember one night I was up for a couple days straight, right? And I go over to the head of the building, and I'm like, "Hey, tough guy, dude, why do you always got to send two in on me? Why don't you handle your business like a man?" I go, woke him up. As soon as the lights came on 5 a.m., I've been tweaking for like 2 nights straight. Right? I was gonna, in my mind, I was gonna whoop his ass, right? And I wake him up, and I'm like, "What's up, tough guy?" Right? And so, you know, he handled his business like a man that day. He beat the crap out of me, you know, and I remember he threw this shirt at me, cleaned up the blood. I mean, it's just pathetic, right? I became that guy, and I left some blood on the ground, right? And the cops came through like they do every 40 minutes and do their little walk, and they seen the blood, and they lock the pod down, and they make everyone strip down for knuckle body checks. So we're all in front of our cubicle in our boxers, and they look at me. I got this big old cut in my eye. I got a black eye. I got a fat lip. I got bruises all over my body. And he's like, "Dude, roll up. You're going to the hole. Obviously, you look like you've been in a fight. We're taking you to the hole." And so I get to the hole. And another UA, right? So I got to take a UA. I fail another UA, right? And finally, I know that my visits are going to be gone. My phones are going to be gone for a whole year. I won't get another phone call. I won't get another
for pissing hot.
Right? That was my second one, right? Excuse me, that was my first one. I got another same level Class A ticket. For my wife couldn't keep her hands off of me in visitation. It was the other way around. The other way around. But so I had 2 Class A tickets. So that meant this second one, no phone calls for a year, no visits for a year.
Damn.
Right?
That's hardcore.
And so I know that I got one week to get one more phone call. You get 1 10-minute phone call in the hole. Right?
Oh yeah.
And so the cops are walking by for a whole week. I'm banging on the door. "Hey, phone call, phone call." Dude, it's so frustrating. And so finally Sunday night, I know Monday morning my phones are off a year. No contact with them, right? And I just wanted one more phone call to lie to my wife, to tell her it's a misunderstanding. They did me wrong. It's a contaminated sample. Whatever lie I was going to feed her. I love you, put some money on my books, right? And so I remember 10 p.m. shift change happened, and I knew that I wasn't going to get a phone call, and I had a break from reality, dude. And I became the dude who yelled and kicked his door and flooded his cell. And I became a spitter. I became all those things, right? And I remember when the cops came, they didn't bring a phone. They brought the cell extract team. And they backed me up into the back of my cell, and I tried to fight them for about 0.5 seconds, right? Yeah. And they put me in a restraint chair, and they put a spit mask on. They had me there, and they wheeled me. It's a wheelchair with your straps on it, and they put me in this porter closet. I'm sitting there with mops and brooms and all this stuff, and I had a spit mask on. I'm crying. I got snot bubbles coming out of my nose, and I sat there. It felt like days. It was probably a couple hours. I'm just crying, thinking about what has my life become. I'm sitting in Kingman, Arizona. My wife wants a divorce. My parents blocked the phone number. They don't want nothing to do with me. My brother hasn't talked to me in a year. I got no friends. I've lied to every single family member. I've got nobody. I have no friends on this yard. Everybody wants to beat my ass. I got nobody. I got nothing. And I sat there, and I remember they dumped me on the floor of that cell, and I laid there and I cried. And in that moment, that was the bottom, dude. And that was the gift of pain and desperation. And I knew from that moment that I wanted to do something different in my life. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know when it was going to be. I just knew a couple big realizations had happened. And the one realization is love is an action word. And I share about it all the time. I used to call my wife and be like, hey babe, can you put $50 on my books? I need you to send $40 over to Chihuahua, Mexico. I need you to pick up this thing. I need you to do this. Make a phone call for my friend. Shoot this message for my other homie. I need you to do this. I love you. And she'd be like, shut up. No, you don't. And I couldn't believe she had the audacity to say that to me, right? But love is an action word.
So true.
And I always ask all the people when I share, when I talk to my sponsees, it doesn't matter. In the midst of the last run that any of us alcoholic addicts were in, if you asked us if we love our kids, our wives, our mothers, our dads, our fathers, brothers, siblings, if we love them, the answer is yes. And we mean that. With everything that we are, we mean that. But the truth is, our actions show that we don't care very much about them, right? I love my wife, but I'm bleeding her dry for money. I love my daughter, but I don't see her for 2 years as I wanted to sell drugs on the yard, get high, fail UAs, right? I love my mom, but I put her through it for 20 years, but I love you. And I was sick of my actions reflecting the hatred, really. The truth is, right, it looks like I hate them through my actions. I was sick of that. And I also had another realization that I became the lowest of the lowest. I'm already an inmate. We're definitely not the upper class of society. And now I'm like the lowest of the inmate population. And those two things coupled together was like, oh my God, I got to do something different in my life, dude. I got 3 years left, dude. I had been in prison. I was getting money from my parents, from my wife, from my aunts, from Tony Marinucci, rest in peace, who died of this addiction. I was getting money from all these people. Now here I am sitting in this cell, and I got nothing. I got no TV. I got deck shoes. I got one earbud because I tried to pop a socket with an earbud like I'm MacGyver and smoke a cigarette. I don't even smoke cigarettes. I got one earbud and 2 socks, and I've been in prison for 4 years. How am I going to get through the rest of the sentence? I got to figure this out because I'll come right back, right? And I sat in that hole for 90 days. No TV.
You're in the hole for 90 fucking days?
90 days.
Damn!
A little bit over 90 days. No TV. No celly, by myself, walking back and forth doing push-ups. And I remember my neighbor next door, through the vent, I could hear his TV because he had a TV, and he used to play a lot of Christian music. And I remember I would hear the music, and I would feel it because I'm sober now. I could feel again. I'm emotional as hell, and I'm just doing push-ups, and I'm praying. And I'm praying for God to do something, to show me how to stay sober and want to stay sober. And I sat there for a little bit over 90 days, and finally it was the day where they were going to roll me up and move me to a new yard. And I thought there was no way in hell they'd ever send me back to Florence North Unit. And when I got on that bus, I said, where am I going? He said, Florence North Unit today. I know that to be the grace of God, right? So my first thought is, at least I'll know some people. My second thought is, well, damn, I owed about $5,000 on that yard. So I mean, oh God, you know,
it's gonna get ugly again.
It's gonna get ugly again, you know. But when I walked into that yard, you know, Josh S., which we both know very well, you know, I had we were getting high together, man. And right before I left that yard, he had found recovery. He started going to meetings, right? I remember we had a conversation where I had a phone, I had, a cell phone on the prison yard. I got him, I'm into the bullshit, right? And so he comes over, and he's like, bro, he's like, I don't think I could hang out with you for a while. And he's like, I got to do this recovery thing. And I was like, well, when you're ready to relapse, call me, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? On some old, And I borrowed some money from him, too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm getting ready to leave the yard to go to Kingman. And I give him fake Western Union numbers. Because there's a 10-digit code to pick up the Western Union. You would give to your family member, and they would go pick up the money. I just write 10 numbers down. I'm like, here you go, bro. I got you. Love you, bro. Right? And that was my friend, dude.
Yeah.
That's where I was at,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
And so I see him, and he knew I touched down, and we're meeting in the middle of the yard, and I'm like, bro, the only program I know how to work. Step 1, step 9. Powerless and unmanageable, I can't lie anymore. I'm sorry. 9.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And he's like, don't even worry about it, bro. You want to make that money right? Come to a meeting. Come to a meeting. And I was like, all right, I'll go to a meeting.
Schnitzel.
Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Yep, and I was like, all right, I'll go to a meeting. He's like, I'm going to come pick you up for the meeting, too. I'm like, all right, I'm going to a meeting. You got any socks? I had nothing, dude. I had nothing. He gave me socks, right?
Yeah.
And so we get into that meeting, and then what happens is I see a bunch of men who I knew were just as bad as I were, because we were in the same trench together. Yeah. And now they became that visual proof, like the doctor's opinion talks, from a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I recognized their features, but from there all resemblance ended. Yeah. The way they held how high they held their head, the look in their eye, the tone of their voice, and I knew them, and that right there. Yeah. Was God right there working through them, and so I.
Because you got high with all of them.
Yeah, dude, we were. Adam Tronier.
Oh yeah.
Oh
my
God. Yeah, dude. That's my. There was a point in time where we were in the tents in Florence North Unit, and he was been up for like a week. He was like 110 pounds. He was curled up in a ball and freaking out. Been up for a week, dude. In a tent, sweating. Yeah. Right. Oh my God. And now I see him, and I'm like, damn, he's on the fire crew, and he's like the blue hat or whatever. I probably said it wrong, but the leader of the crew. And I'm thinking, what the? All right, man. And they said, get a sponsor. And I said, all right, I'm going to get a sponsor. And there was a guy that we were sitting, we're in a trailer in this meeting, and there's 20 guys in there, and he's talking. I got tears. I couldn't speak for the first 6 months in a meeting without just crying, dude. It was painful, man. And I asked that man to be my sponsor, dude. And from that moment, a little over 5 years ago, dude, my life just completely changed. But it's called Into Action. It's not for people who need it or want it. It's for people who do it. And I did it. Did it, dude. Yeah. It talks about, and there's a solution. A few are fortunate to be so situated they give nearly all their time to this work. And a few ain't many. And my sponsor said, dude, you are the few right now. There's going to be no other opportunity in your life where you have pretty much, you don't have a job right now. You don't got a TV right now. You don't got a radio right now. You ain't got nothing. You don't got phone calls right now. You don't got a stamp, player. Right?
From the prison yard.
Right now, all you got is the time to work this program, and you're never going to have the amount of time you have now again in your life. That's true. Let's take advantage of it. Wow. Because people are dying out there every day. People are coming back every day. But right now, you have the opportunity to recover. I'll support you and love you the whole way through. Man. And I said, well, let's get ready to roll then. What do you want me to do? He said, the first thing I want you to do is carry this big book with you everywhere you go on the yard, in your hand. Because I would hide it.
Oh, yeah.
There was a shift on that yard because God was on that yard. And there was a shift where recovery was the biggest gang on the yard, if you want to call it that, right? Yeah. But for a period of time, if you're holding the big book, it's like quitter, piece of shit, throw rocks at them. Look at these lames. Wasn't always the most glamorous person to be the recovery guy in the yard. And I had a problem with people pleasing, and I still do. I'm a people pleaser. I'm an overcommitter. Me too. Right?
Deliver.
Yeah, dude, because I don't want to hurt you.
Right, and I want to do a good job.
Yes.
Tell everyone yes.
Yes. Right? And so people would be like, hey, Jay, what's up, man? You're back. Let's get on the phone. Let's make some money. I got a guy who'll make a drop for us. Choose 200. Let's do it. And I didn't know how to say no to him. Oh, yeah. Right?
You're
and I find and I'm trying to change, but I want to be liked. Yeah. And so I'd find myself in a stupid situation And he's like, dude, carry your book with you everywhere you go in the yard. They won't ask you that anymore. And I carried that book with me, same book I have today. I carried it with me everywhere I went on the yard. And he said, that's the first boundary you're going to set with it by carrying that book with you. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to every meeting. You're going to share it every single meeting as much as you possibly can. And then you're going to listen. And I want you to tell me 3 or 4 things that you can remember that stuck out to you from what others have shared in your own story. And we'll start there.
Good sponsor.
And then we got right into the book, dude. And, you know, from there, dude, you know, I just took it running. 90 days into being sober, you know, my sponsor said, hey, there's an opening to go be a part of the substance abuse class on this yard. I think you should go do it. And I was on a paint crew painting. Dude, I don't paint. I don't even change flat tires, bro. I call AAA. Right? Like, I could. I don't, you know. I literally came in, paint all over me, walked straight across the yard, went straight into her office, and I got the job.
Wow.
And, you know, I had that job until COVID hit, but over 2 years, you know, I taught that drug class.
And spoke to all the people, new inmates that came to the yard.
So so from that period, man, it was just a remarkable transformation. I worked the steps. I figured out, you know, how to apply steps 1, 2, and 3. Right? Like, you know, the foundation. Turns out the power from the knowledge comes from the application. You got to know how to apply it to get a result.
Right.
I figured that out. Looked over 4 and 5, and, you know, got through the steps for the first time and started sponsoring others and started teaching the drug class. And then next thing you know, the SSU, which is the gang squad on the yard, calls me over the intercom like they've done hundreds of other times, usually to give me a UA or interrogate me about what's going on in the yard, or search me or pat me down or search my my whole building if I was involved in it, right? And they say, hey, when people fail UAs in this yard, we want to give them an opportunity to work with you. And we'll retest them. So if you failed a drug test, they will call me at my number, 221-882. They would call me up there, and I would go up there, and I'd sit down, and usually be another guy crying. You know, he just got caught. That's usually what we do. We cry, right? And they'd say, look, if you work with Jason over the next 2 weeks, and you really work at this thing, and he says that you've been working this program, we'll retest you, and if you pass, we'll throw the other one out.
Damn.
Right? And so now they're calling me over the intercom, and, you know, they see me, other inmates see me go in there, you know, and I didn't care what they said or what they thought, because the truth was is I was helping people, man. And that's all that mattered. And then from there, I started speaking at orientation. So every Friday at 7 in the morning, I would go up when all the newcomers came to the yard once a week. I would go up there for orientation, and I give them a straight up halftime speech at the Super Bowl, right? Just get busy living or get busy dying. Who's coming with me? You know, and I would give them this speech and give them meeting cards and ask them if they need anything, and walk them back to their new cube and welcome them to the yard and introduce them to other members of the fellowship, get them enrolled in our class. You know? And I did that for a couple years. The same cops who ran me off the yard, who couldn't stand me, called me over the intercom. The warden who hated me, right? Allowed me to speak at every single orientation.
Unbelievable.
It's a miracle.
Dude, the recovery on that yard, like I have chills. The recovery, I didn't realize that the guards, I guess CO3s or whatever, cops, were so involved in it as well. You know, it's...
So there was this shift over there where when I first started going to meetings, there might be 9, 15 meetings. By the time they closed that yard, and God closed that yard, because when they closed that yard, there was over 50, 60 guys at a meeting. That's unheard of. Unheard of.
Well, I got to see it.
Once, spit and fire, too. Real
solid recovery.
Real recovery. You're getting after it, you know? And but God closed that yard, and what happened was they moved us to all different complexes all across the state, and all the guys from that North Unit Fellowship went to a new yard and started meetings and got involved in a drug class and got literature and wrote world services and got in touch with NA and got a bunch of stuff and started meetings and shared that recovery that God showed us and the men showed us on that yard, and shared it across the whole entire state. You know, and we started working with the cops, right? They were our enemies. Don't talk to the cops. Right? All these things that we're, you know, taught when we come into prison as youngsters, you know, don't talk to them, you know, all these things. Well, we started working with them. We started talking to them. We got meetings. We got more meetings. We got meeting rooms. We had them, you know, help us with all different types of things. Because again, the truth is for the most part, most of them don't want to see you come back. They want to see you succeed, right? They want to see that, you know, but God was there, dude. I don't know how else to explain it. the North Unit Fellowship. Shout out to all those men because we were at Adam's house on St. Patrick's Day, and there was 40 men from that fellowship there at his house now who are all out, all sober, all doing the deal, thriving. Business owners, a lot of new vehicles out there,
big
right?
trucks,
all kinds of dude, and still supporting each other, man.
It's amazing.
It's unheard of, dude. I've never seen it happen before.
I haven't either. I've always had the. My sponsor tells me I'm an idealist, but and I am, I guess. But I have always what happened on at Florence North Unit with the recovery. I wish all prisons were like that. You know, and it's like, it's possible, you know, I mean, I don't know, that's a whole nother topic I don't really want to get into, but it's just when I was on that, when me and Joey came down there for Recovery Day, when I first met you 4 years ago and you were speaking, I walked in, and it seemed to me like there was 80, 100 guys, maybe it wasn't that
there was about 100.
There's a lot of
there's
dudes.
about 100 men,
And we would come in late, and I found a seat, and man, I just the electricity, like I was just covered in goosebumps, like
you could feel it.
Solid ass recovery, dude. You could just feel it.
I mean, we were really getting after it. We were in the book. We were helping each other. We were, you know, and that's not always the coolest thing to do in prison, right? But we made it the place to be, right? And we were getting, sometimes people would leave because there was no room. We'd have the chairs full, we had to get a bigger room, standing room, people sitting on the ground. I mean, we had so many people, all with sponsors, all working the steps and doing it together. Those 3 years with that North Unit Fellowship I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life.
Wow.
Ever. With nothing. Away from my wife and daughter. Beside that piece in my family, aside from that, I was the happiest I'd ever been. It gave me true inner peace and happiness
and purpose
purpose. And now to get out and have my family with that happiness and purpose and peace, everything else is just icing on the cake, man.
The thing that amazes me the most about your life, my life, everybody's fucking life in recovery is how, not that we just go so low in life and then very quickly in recovery shit just starts happening like that, but it's not like we just come from the gutter and then just back to a level of life like good, like it's just like the mountaintop, like the shit you've accomplished in 2 years, the things that you are doing, which we were talking about before we started filming, is just insane. I mean, literally, like, I'm sober 11 years, like almost all my dreams have come true in 11 years. And that's not an exaggeration.
I know.
Almost all of them. I mean, what do I want to do? I'd like to tour and sing some songs, but it's... we could go do that. I think we're going to go do that. Like, me and my wife are like, you know, I'm going to call some treatment centers across the country, go see some friends, go play some rehabs. Like, it's... I don't know, dude.
Every dream and every goal that I had set when I got out of prison has happened. Goals you don't achieve are good ideas, and my whole life I had a bunch of good ideas. Today I get to achieve goals, and I wanted to start a podcast. Now I had two for a period of time, but now I have my personal podcast that's in 34 countries, and Spotify's hitting me up, and I got a sponsor, and I'm getting people reaching out all over the world wanting to ask me questions and be on the show, right? I wanted to coach soccer. Today I'm a soccer coach with my daughter. I wanted to pick my daughter up from school and tuck her into bed every night. I've picked her up from school and tucked her into bed every single night for the last 2 years. I wanted to work in recovery. Today, I've worked in recovery now for 2 years. I'm getting ready to open up my own treatment center. My own treatment center with a friend. And the only way that happens...
Nice one.
A 6,000 square foot...
Serious,
right? You know, Ocotillo Recovery Centers is coming soon, but... and that only came from me seeing a friend at New Freedom on Facebook. He was posting positive quotes. And I said, damn, it looks like he's doing good. I'm going to call him, see if he needs anything. Tell him I love him, and ask him if he needs some smokes, right? Yeah. And I called him, and he said, hey, as a matter of fact, you remember our old friend? He's looking to start a new business. He's made it. hold on, let me get him on the phone right now. Three-weight him.
Yeah.
And now here we are, fast forward, we're getting ready to open up some real luxury treatment centers.
Real luxury.
Real luxury treatment centers, right?
I might have to relapse move into that, dude. It's nice.
It's not. It's beautiful. I mean,
that's insane.
It's gorgeous, right? And I wanted to have another baby. I have a 1-year-old. All those financial goals, those have all been met times 50. Every single goal that I had, I wanted to speak at a convention. I did that.
Spoke to inmates.
2 weeks out of prison, they're zooming me in. I've spoke to pretty much every prison yard on probation.
Yeah, that never happens.
Within 2 weeks of being out of prison, through an introduction from you to Justin, he calls me. I'm helping my parents move a couch because today I contribute to their life. So I'm helping them move for once instead of them moving me out while I'm in jail. Right? I'm finally lifting the couch. And I get a call, hey, can you jump on and speak to these guys over in Safford?
Now?
Now. I'm like, I'm ready right now. Let's go. Right? Put the couch down. Here I am giving a pep talk to some guys 2 weeks at my folks' house, 2 weeks out of prison, man. And so recovery is giving me everything's times 10. We climb these mountains, and then recovery teaches us what's the next one to climb. Right? What are we going to do next? Right? How are we going to bring others with us to that mountaintop?
So true.
And then where are we going next?
Right?
And it's just... I started a consulting company off a referral from a friend in recovery who was just, I know from doing step work with, right? And he gave me a referral, and now here we are, fast forward 3 months, we're getting ready to start a reentry program. We're in 3 different cities. We've got Embassy Suites on 24th Street in Thomas. We got hotels in Tucson. We got hotels in Flagstaff. I'm working with DOC, the same guy you introduced me to. And now we're getting ready to open up a reentry program that's going to be in 3 different cities and help so many people, dude. It's nuts.
In 2 years.
In 2
You've been out 2
bro.
years of prison. It's
Crazy.
insane.
It's insane.
And that's not a unique story. You know, we talk about that too. It's I did music therapy at drug rehab the other day, and I walked in, and they're like, oh, I've seen, a couple of women are like, oh, I've seen you on TV. I'm like, you ain't seen me on TV. I'm like, oh no, with Jason, his his Big Book study. I'm like, oh, they run that here? They're like, yeah, I play it every week. That New Method. You know? Like
and then I wanted to record some stuff. You recorded every single one, dude. That I'm telling you right now, I get messages probably 3 or 4 times a week from people that I either know or I don't know who are listening to those step studies that we were able to record at Crossroads Midtown, which is unheard of to bring a camera into.
An AA meeting. It's not, I know.
Right? And the people are reaching out to me, and I can name probably 7 or 8 different treatment centers who use those consistently on a rotation. They're Big Book studies that are relatable.
It's amazing. I hope that we can get them on the tablets at some point. It's just nuts, dude. Like I say all the time, like I don't need my life any better than it is. I really don't. But it just keeps getting better. It's just nuts. I ran into a guy at the gym this morning who he's like super great guy, and he's like, we get to talking, and he's like, I'm not really in the program anymore. I'm 95% sober.
And he's California sober?
95% sober. And I was like, whatever, bro, and he's like, but I love running into guys like you, recovery guys, because, you guys, he's like, you don't do drama, and you always, at the end of a disagreement, whatever, you look at yourself, like my part. And we chopped it up, and it was great to see him and all that. And he went his way, and I went over, and I started like doing these little deadlifts. And I get ready to like grab the bar and do my first one, and then the thought comes in on me, I wonder if I could be 95% sober. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
I know. It's crazy.
And I mean, that's why I have a few friends in my life who are not even really sober anymore that I met in the rooms. I talk to them, I project with them, but I don't really hang out with them because of, not because I don't love them, but like just that interaction with that guy who I've met in recovery, and he's working, and he's doing good, he looks great physically, but he can drink and keep his life together, and I can't, but I know alcoholism, drug addiction is alive and well in me because this morning, with a fairy tale fucking life, the thought comes in, you could be 95% sober.
It's crazy, dude.
Dude!
I know. And they become passing shadows and you almost laugh them off. But, I mean, when those thoughts come to me, I'm just like, dude, Jay, I have the best life I've ever had in my entire life.
Dude.
And I have those thoughts. And then ultimately, that's what the steps are for. And that's what the book is for because it tells me you got a daily reprieve, a daily stay from execution contingent on the maintenance of your spiritual condition. And if you hadn't maintained your spiritual condition up into that conversation, you would be like 3% sober right now.
Right. And
right? But because we're spiritually fit, because we're willing to drive to Crossroads Midtown on a Saturday night when we leave the wife and kids at home and drive over there every single Saturday or Sunday night over here.
After working 100 miles.
Right. And the reason why we do that is to ensure our sobriety, man, and to stay spiritually fit. That's the reason why I wake up and go to the gym every single morning.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Have a service commitment. Have a sponsor. Right. Work with at least reality is 2 guys in the book at all times. Right? And as long as I have those things in, I can keep that reprieve going every single day. But if I don't, then next thing you know, I'll be at work and I'll be handing out medication, and the thought will cross my mind. Eat that whole script of Gap pens, right? That's a box and you're good. Just a little piece.
Right.
Right? Nobody will know.
Right?
And I'll attach to it if I'm not careful.
Yeah, man, me too.
We've seen it so many times.
We have seen it so many times.
I've been on a pink cloud for 5 years, bro. And hate's a strong word. I dislike when people say I was on a pink cloud and I came off the pink cloud. Well, I'll tell you why, because you stopped doing what you did to get on the pink cloud, because I've been on one for 5 years and that cloud just keeps getting better because I keep doing the same things.
I've been on one for 11 years.
Right?
Like it's true.
Well, you stop doing you're missing something then. Because that's what recovery gives you. It's that you become spiritually intoxicated. I'm spiritually high right now.
Me too.
And that was the tipping point for me, because I remember I had been sober, I've been 10 sponsees, I've been teaching the drug class, and I go over to my sponsor's house, shout out Matt Langford, and I go over there and I say, dude, why do I still think about drinking beer when I feel great? Why? I don't know if I've got spirituality. I don't understand.
How long were you sober at this point?
About 10 months. And then he says,
still have the obsession?
Just the thoughts, you know? And I was just like, does it go away? Like, what am I doing, dude? Because I feel good, but I still think about this. I'm still kicking around doing ecstasy on anniversaries. Right?
New Year's Eve's coming.
I mean, and he looked me dead in my eyes and he says, dude, I'm high right now. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm high right now. He's like, I'm high on God. I'm spiritually intoxicated. And every time I work with somebody, every time I go work out, every time I pray, every time I meditate, every time I watch a sponsee sponsor another man, every time I go to a meeting and God wears people clothes and he speaks through everybody else, and every time those things happen, every time I talk to my kids or I talk to my mom and she says I'm proud of you and I say I love you, or I don't have to say it, every time I do those things, I do a big old piece of God. A big old blast. And it's got legs and it doesn't have consequences and it feels good. And in that moment, I'm like, dude, you're right. I'm high too, dude. On God.
Truth, recovery.
And it just clicked for me, and I was like, dude, I get it.
Power.
I get it now. I can stay high on God. Now I know how to identify the way I experience God. Physical fitness, sports, prayer, meditation, music, present in the relationships in my life, being a good father, brother, husband, and son. Living like my 9-year-old, my 11-year-old, and my 1-year-old are out next to me at all times. And when I do that, I feel good. Right? And I just got to keep doing that and structure my day around those things. And I stay spiritually high all day.
Me too. And that's what, I'm so grateful for the big book. In step 2, where they say, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Because, I thought I was atheist and all that shit before. I mean, I believe in higher power and all that, but I mean, it takes power to act different than how you fucking feel. And, like, especially in the beginning of getting sober, to not go get high, start feeling these feelings. I don't know, man. It's the transformation is a weird deal, because like I don't run and do all the shit in my life because I'm afraid of getting loaded. I just go and do. I don't know.
I get to do these things.
I want to fucking, I'm driven by doing a good job. I'm driven by say what I do what I say, follow through, you know, put too much pressure on myself at times, a lot of times. But I don't know, man. It's so amazing to see what you've done in 2 years out of prison, and but you do recovery the way I do recovery, and everybody that we know, it's like
everybody who does recovery the way that the book, the directions in the book, they're directions. Further on are clear-cut directions. Another podcast, another time.
Yeah.
Okay, they're directions. All right. If you want what they have, you got to do what they did. And if you do what they did, then you get to have an amazing life. And that's what comes with it. And it talks about that. One of my favorite parts, and it's actually the daily reflection on my birthday, July 30th. And it talks about being a newcomer and it's referencing mining, and our pick strikes gold.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And we're in recovery, and I'll paraphrase it in my own terms. And I strike gold, I find recovery, it's gold, I feel so good. And now all I got to do is mine for it for the rest of my life and give it all away. Right? So I keep mining, I keep giving.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, how do you continue to do it? I just got to be willing to pick up the phone at 2 a.m. and drive out to wherever that person who needs my help and pick them up and do whatever I got to do to help that person. I got to be willing to do it anytime. And when God puts that person in front of me, I got to be willing to do it. And as long as I can do that, the rest of everything else in my life will come.
Picking up the phone at 2 a.m. I don't do that no more.
Yeah.
I put my phone on vibrate. I've taken many dudes to detox at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, but I shut my phone off like when I go to bed now. But before my wife and all that, I mean, it was 24/7.
I know that I could call you at any point in time and you answer that phone, or I shoot you a message and I need help with something, or I know someone who needs help with something. You're gonna be there, right?
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's the whole part of it. Dude.
Yeah.
I just got to be willing to put others before myself, right? And I'm willing to help people, and everything else just falls into line.
Yeah, it's true. I always say, like, I love being in recovery because it's like being in the sober mafia. Because it really is like, I got a guy for that. Yeah. Oh, you didn't pay your tax. Like
I'm Italian. I got a guy. You know, a guy.
But good, like a guy that'll do good for you, not not do bad. I didn't pay taxes for 15 years.
Yeah.
And, went to a meeting and got to speak in, and I go, I used to be an IRS agent, now I open my own business, I help people who haven't done their taxes, and so, 3 years sober, and after 15 years of not paying taxes, I call the IRS, because we don't run from our debtors or our creditors.
We don't.
That was a lot of fear in doing that.
Dude, when I got sober and when I went back to Florence, North Union, I went to that first meeting with Josh. I had owed, I think it was like $3,000 on the yard.
Wow.
Right? And I had no money, like zero. My parents weren't sending me any. They weren't even talking to me. My girl, I didn't even have phone calls, right? And I wasn't getting a penny, and I didn't even have a job. And I owed all these people money, and I went to my sponsor and I said, bro, I don't got a TV. I owe everybody money on this yard. I don't know what to do. He's like, oh, this is awesome. This is right where you need to be. And I was like, dick.
Yeah.
And he was right. I needed that humbling part of it, dude. But he said, look, you're not ready to make an amends because you're not even on step 1, right?
Yeah.
You make amends when you're in step 9. But what you are going to do, recovery is about having tough conversations. You're not going to run around this yard and walk by these dudes and act like this isn't going on. So you need to go to them and talk to them and let them know that you recognize that you do owe them money. And that you will pay them that money, and you're not going anywhere. And slow money's better than no money, right?
Yes,
and so it took me pretty much that whole 3 years before I got released, and I paid every single person off. And I went one by one. And I went up to that person. I used the 5-step amends process that my sponsor taught me, right? And I couldn't pay any of the debts off in full, so I would bring my first payment and set up a payment plan, and I'd make those payments, and then once that was done, I go to the next guy, and I make an amends and give the first payment, and make a payment, pay it off, and I went to every single person on the yard, and that felt good.
Yeah.
Right? Because now,
but it's also scary as hell.
Yeah, oh yeah, dude. I mean, there were some pissed off people.
Yeah, well, right? I bet. I don't give a fuck you're recovery. Not, dude, where's my money?
Yeah, they want their money, but they could see, because we all watch each other. We're living in on top of each other.
Yeah.
They could see that I was really doing this, right? I wasn't one of the many different guys who try to go hide out in the fellowship, right? Church or whatever. They could see that I was really doing the deal.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of them worked out deals with me, and a lot of them would, and so, but we have to pay our debts, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. We have to do it. I must be willing. Became willing to make amends to them all. That's the key word, willing. I'm willing to make an amends to them all. Now, am I going to go into Walmart and go knock on Asset Protection's door and say, hey, check it out, I stole 100 G's from you? No. But what I will do to amend that behavior is I will pick up shopping carts every time I go in the parking lot. My wife hates it. But I'll go in there and I'll pick up every damn cart in that parking lot. Right? Yeah. But if I had to, I will face it and because, I'm not willing to give up this life.
Right.
And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to maintain it. We know plenty of people who had to go back and pay consequences for their past and do sober prison sentences. I was working with a sponsee earlier today, and we dropped off a letter to a guy who 6 years sober has to go do a 5-year prison sentence, right? And I was able to use my experience of sponsoring a ton of different men and getting involved in the drug program and being that shining light for those still in the dark on the yard. And you have that opportunity to go do it. That if nothing happens in God's world by mistake, then there's a reason why He has you set up for this. And so he wrote him a letter to encourage him to keep on pushing forward, right? Because that's what we do. We support each other.
Yes, we do.
And so, but I got to be willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah. So. I like how you say that. Because I tell all my sponsees that I sit down with, especially guys that have never been in the program before, I tell them, this book says you need to be willing to go to jail, willing to go to prison, but we're not going to put you in any position where you're going to go over to fucking Home Depot, like you just said, and let them know you've been, stealing from them for fucking the last 6 years, and go grab the night manager. Like if universe wants to put you in prison, it'll, but we've got living amends around here. It's
and every day is a living amends to myself, to all the others, all the hostages I had for girlfriends. Right. So now the way I make that right is by treating my wife the way I should have treated every woman in my life that I've ever been in contact with. Some days I do a great job and others I don't, but what I do understand is that whatever the situation is, I have to be willing to look at my actions, take responsibility, because recovery gave me awareness. Awareness of my thoughts, awareness of my emotions, awareness of my past, awareness of the present, awareness of my actions. And so when I'm aware, I'm responsible today. And I have to make sure I'm responsible for the things I say, the things that I do. And I'm human and I don't always handle things right.
Me too.
But when I don't handle them right, I got to be willing to immediately, as quick as I can get to it, own my part of it and be willing to amend that behavior. Right? And it's not always the easiest thing to do.
It's not.
Because I'm a sponsor. But I sponsor people. Leave me alone. How dare you ask me where I'm at, Mom? I know I just did an 8-year prison sentence. I know I've relapsed 60 times and stole everything that you have. And you have the audacity to ask me where I'm going? Let me see your eyes. I got 3 sponsees, Mom. Back off. Right? It's crazy though. That's what I think. That's the way I think. I remember I called my dad and I'm like, hey, Dad, you're going to be proud of me. I got 2 years sober today. He's like, dude, you're supposed to be sober. You're in prison, dude. Like, attaboy. Good point, Dad. You're right.
I don't remember how you talk about like going over to your in-laws or something. It's like, like my steak medium rare. What's that story?
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing, my wife, we've coming up on 13, 14 years, a while. And she just went through 8-year prison, 2 years ago, but 8-year prison sentence with me. I wasn't the most, if I always got to think about the way that her family thinks, right? That's her daughter, and I'm the man in her life. I leave her with nothing to the point where she doesn't have a car, she doesn't have money in the bank, she doesn't have a job, she doesn't have anything, and to the point where her parents are pissed, so she chooses me over them, moves in with my family, lives with my parents because she couldn't live any other way with my 1-year-old daughter, right? So, fast forward now, and I work a program and I do all these things, but if I think that I'm going to get out of prison and all of a sudden go show up at their house for a Sunday football game, hey, what's up, Pops? How you doing? Steak, medium rare. Yeah, thanks. Right? Where's the remote at? I got 2 sponsees. Don't trip. It's all good now. Right?
I know it's yeah.
Recovery means I got to have the tough conversations, and I got to be willing to address those things, right? Amend the behavior and not repeat it, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to have that talk. I remember when I got out of prison, and I said, look, when I hit up her dad, and I said, hey, I know we got to talk. Whenever I'm ready, but whenever you're ready, let me know, because I'm willing to do that, and I'd like to speak to you, just be, one-on-one,
Did he know you were 3 years sober at that time?
I mean, I had wrote him amends letters when I got to step 9, and he never said anything to my wife about getting them. He never acted like they happened. Right, her family
that
was
is
like,
a tough conversation, bro.
right? And so he's, so he sat down, and I remember when I sat down with him, and we're sitting there, and and I was like, look, I completely understand how you must feel. I think about it all the time. If that was my daughter, I'd be really pissed. Yeah. And you have every right to feel that way. But the facts is apparently I'm not going anywhere as of right now. Yeah. And you're her father, and you're not going anywhere. And we both love the same girl. And so hopefully we can build off this conversation. And I don't really want to talk much more about what I'm gonna do. I want to show you what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And I hope over a period of time we can get back to the point that we were at before I started smoking heroin in your bathroom and stealing from you. I didn't say that part.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he respected it, and today we're good, right? And that conversation had to happen with a ton of different people, man. A ton of people. I was able to make the ones I can make when I was in there, but the principle associated with the 9 step is discipline. I got to be disciplined to make these amends, because A, I'm going to harm more people and owe more amends throughout my whole life, and B, I'm going to run into a lot of people that I wasn't able to see before, and I got to be disciplined to make it when it happens. Yeah. So
I know we're kind of running out of time, but I sponsored a guy that you did time with, and he came out. He was 5 years sober when he came out of prison, and so he's like, I need to start making amends. And it was the first time I'd ever considered even really talk to anybody about being 5 fucking years sober and hadn't made amends to nobody, but had been in prison the whole time. And it was a really interesting experience for me to, kind of go through that with him and walk him through that at 5 years sober.
Yeah, and it's different because, when you get sober out here on the streets, you're able to make amends to most people because you have their phone numbers, you can get in touch with them, but a lot of times when you're in prison, man, you don't have addresses, they're not, you're dead to them, right? You don't even have phone calls, you got to go through an approval process to get on the phones. The tablets would made it a heck of a lot easier, but they still have to, initiate the process and sign up, right? And so, you can make the ones you can make, and a lot of times it was very, very minimal. So a lot of us, for when we got out of prison, it was like, the list of all the things we want to accomplish and goals and things we want to do, and at the very top of that was get some of these amends done. Yeah, right? Critical, man. And so, because you never know, dude, tomorrow is not guaranteed. No. And so I remember I had a sponsee who, I told him, look, hey, you're not on step 9 yet. You got to wait till you step 9. You got to wait till you get to step 9. And by the time he got to step 9, his mom died. He never got to make an amends. And I'll never forget that. So now today, based off on that situation, everybody's recovery is unique, and it's your own recovery. The foundation is the book, not my program, the program, the program, right? But a lot of times, man, you can have an honest conversation without making amends the way the book describes it. You can own some of your behavior, but tomorrow's not guaranteed, and I'll never forget that moment. So now I always think about that. So sometimes if you can have that conversation, you should have it.
Absolutely. And thank God for living amends too. It's when I got sober, because my stepmom had passed, and I didn't go to her funeral, and my sponsor said, the way you make amends to your stepmother for not going to her funeral, and even your natural mother, the way you make amends to both your moms is start treating women with respect. The way you treat women is the way you honor both your moms. And that's why,
so true.
I'm running around with a woman, who's completely out of my league, who respects herself, and so, well, I really appreciate you sitting down with me, man. I'm your biggest fan.
I'm your biggest fan too, and I have so much respect for you and the way that you embraced me and welcomed me in and got me plugged in and got me connected and show up for me and continuously support me, dude. It means more than you'll ever know. I gotta have men like you in my life. I have to have that critical aspect of other men who are, gas pedal recovery guys, ready to roll at all times, because we all encourage and motivate each other, dude. And I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much. Awesome. I love you, man. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.